All right, I've had some questions about how I've been making these arches. So I'm going to start with, in a video that I posted on YouTube, I actually made this template. And that was done by taking the drawing that I picked up off the internet and converting that to HO scale and then cutting everything out, laying it out, good old drafting, and then cutting and doing some sanding. You can see that in the first on the YouTube video. The material I'm using on this is 1/4 inch MDF, which is medium density fiberboard. It's not the easiest stuff to find here where I'm at in northern Illinois. I couldn't find it at Home Depot. I could not find it at Lowe's. We have a Menards. Menards is carrying it. It'll run about $10 to $12 a sheet. They've been running some sales lately on it, so I've been able to get it around the $10 mark. This template is just under 5 foot, so I have to cut the blanks, rough cut them in this fashion so that I can get at least 3 pieces versus only 2 if I was just to cut them square. Taking this template, laying it out, and with a pencil just going through the major arch and then drawing a line. And I'm kind of when I put my pencil in, I'm kind of doing an angle like this so that I'm about an 1/8 inch oversized when I draw it. Do the same here and also at the very end. I also have this end a little oversized. So now when I take that off, I have something that looks like this with the line in it. And then from there I take the jigsaw and I'll even cut a little outside of that line just to make sure that I'm well within size. All right, from there I put in double-faced tape. I've got some of this stuff. I've had it for a long time. And it doesn't take much. Just a little square in the middle, up and down, and on the ends. From there, I like to burnish them down, make sure that they are stuck. One thing about MDF is it does create a lot of fine dust, and to try to get it all off, a lot of times is hard. So now that I've got them burnished, now it's just a matter of pulling the top of the tape, the protective back off. And I'll go and put my master template back on, and I will look it over, make sure I'm overhanging everywhere I want to overhang. Paying particular attention to down here at the springing line, and that's the biggest part. And I'm a little over on the top, a little over on the sides, a little over in the arches, and there I can just stick it. After I stick it, to make sure I'm fully stuck, I use these Vice Grip C-clamp with the pads on them, and about where I put the tape, I give it a squeeze. That way I know I'm stuck at all 6 spots I have the tape. turn this piece around so that you can see my next step. Alright, as I've said, and I stuck them down the way they are because when working with MDF it does create a very fine powder. And now, so I eliminate a lot of the powder, I am going to put some holes in the corners here to start my jigsaw. What I've got is an old piece of scrap plywood so I don't blow out the back end. And just put them under the corners. Take a drill. The next step is going to be to rough cut these out. Alright. So now I have the master template stuck to the blank. The blank is cut out so it looks like a rough copy of the master template. The other thing with the master template that I left this line on, this is a very important line, the springing line. This is where it matches up to the piers. So I'm leaving that on there. And I have marked over here to remind myself it's 18¼ inches from the top to the springing line, and I will cut that later on with the table saw. Alright, another question I've had is how you get each one of those to be as perfect as they are. Well, alright, what I'm using is my router that I have mounted upside down in my table saw, using a, I guess they would call that a top bearing flush trim bit. What the flush trim bearing bit does is you take one piece that is, in my case would be the template, is going to ride along this bearing, and the bottom piece that is going to be just a little oversized is going to get cut by the router. And I've got this set to where it's just a little bit deeper than the thickness of the MDF. Here you can see I've got it set back into my table saw upside down. It's flush to the surface, and I will be all ready to start riding. I will be wearing a dust mask. The best thing I can say about MDF is it is akin to throwing a bag of flour into a fan at high speed. So I won't turn on the vacuum, and I'll do a couple of cuts so you can see what is involved with this, and you'll see how everything comes together. Here's just how well that double face tape sticks. I've got them in the 6 corners, and what I'm using is a cheap 1.5-inch chisel. Using my fingers just to pry where I don't have the tape apart a little bit. I can get the chisel underneath there, and I just do a pry, and it'll come apart. Center one's a little bit tougher. And hopefully this shows up. There you have it, almost a copy of one of the arches for the Nicholson Bridge. The only thing is I will cut that to 18 1/4 from here to here. One very last important step after I take them apart is, you can see I said this indicate with an X. So what I'm going to do is I will mark this with an X. This whole area gets covered over, so it will not show up. The reason I mark it with an X is, no matter how careful I may have tried to make each side completely symmetrical, I could be off. So when I'm putting this together, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep all the X's lined up. In my case, I'm keeping the X's to the left. For Nicholson Bridge, or viaduct, whichever one you want to call it, the X will be to the left as you view it from whatever highway that is, the most photographed side. So since I have to take 2 of these to make one half of the bridge, and then I got another one that's right parallel behind it, I am trying to keep everything in the same alignment. It should make my job of putting this together a whole lot easier in the long run.